What's up guys, Chasing Lane here. Welcome to F1 2020. We're doing a My Team career mode. Brand new F1 racing content.
Welcome to My Team. Here, you'll experience the world of Formula One not only as a driver, but as the owner of a brand new F1 team. First things first, let's choose your character.
Choosing the character, this is a life choice. Okay, so this is kind of the character I have set up, so we're just going to use this one nice and easy, driving my favourite number 53 car.
Great. Now, let's set up some of the key details of your new team.
I'm really excited for this new mode, by the way.
We'll start with an easy one.
Really special.
What name would you like to give the team?
We are going to give the team the name Chasing Racing. I'm playing on the Xbox, as you can probably tell, just because I'm not entirely certain my PC's graphics card would have held up to it. So I thought we'd just do it the old-fashioned way, through the capture card with the Xbox. Obviously, as you can probably hear in the background, doing the intro live.
Now, some kind of income stream is critical, so we need to sign a primary sponsor.
Record the race and I'll commentate over it because that's always the better way. So
our primary sponsor will pay a signing bonus to the team up front. This is vital to cover the early investments we need to make. They will also provide valuable weekly income for us. Each sponsor has a goal that they want the team to achieve. If we hit that goal, the sponsor will pay us an additional goal bonus.
Okay, so we need to pick a sponsor. We've got to be sort of realistic about the money we've got. There's no point me taking this 5.2 million one on the end because I know I'm not, even if this car was able to be good enough, I know I'm not good enough as a driver to be getting 25 constructors points. 5 points finishes again, probably a risk. The sharp bonus from 5 constructors points is doable because we can get 5 points from a lucky race. 8 or better in the constructors is doable. 2 points finishes is probably harder than getting a single point finish. And 15 constructors points again, it's not really worthwhile. Okay, the weekly income is a bit more, but it requires us to make a bit more long term. Just trying to see what else we've got. 10 or better in the constructors, just to finish above Williams. The goal bonus is okay. The weekly income is better than that one. It is better than that one. It's an idea. This one we just have to complete a season and they're just going to keep paying us money though. I think we're going to go... Oh, such choices so early on. I think we're going to go with the... We'll go with the Equinox.
Fantastic. Now we've got a budget to work with. Our car won't be going anywhere fast without a power unit. So let's sign a power unit supplier now. We need both performance and durability from our power unit, but we also need to balance the books. We're going to have a lot of other areas to invest our cash into.
So, I'm not sure if they've done any of the updates on the game yet that are going to change things. So I don't want to take the Ferrari engine, even if I could really afford it, I don't want to take the Ferrari engine. I think wisdom says to take the Mercedes engine, but it's not maybe the way.
We almost have all the key partners for our team now, but we still need a teammate.
It doesn't really give us enough cash left for a
These are the drivers available to be your first teammate. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, so consider everything when deciding who to hire. Drivers earn acclaim based on their performances. When a driver earns enough acclaim, they will level up. The higher a driver's level, the more acclaim they will earn for their current team. And remember, the faster the team levels up, the faster our income will increase. The higher a driver's experience, the more resource points are earned to spend on vehicle upgrades. Racecraft is the driver's skill to effectively complete overtakes when opportunities arise. Awareness shows the driver's ability to avoid errors and incidents. Pace describes the driver's ability to set competitive lap times. Rating is a summary of the driver's overall skill level.
But we'll still I don't want to have Ranga Nathan driving next to me. I know he's going to be an option. He's not even an option. Okay. So, we've got some interesting kind of random choices. De Vries, Antoine Hubert, which I'd be sad if if I chose him. Matsushita, Luciotto, Boccolacci, Tatiana Calderon, Boschum, and Delatraz. I'm going to take Tatiana Calderon.
Looks like we can't afford this power unit supplier and teammate. Let's go back into one of those and sign someone cheaper. Or try and find a sponsor who pays more up front to offset the cost.
Need to find another 200,000.
Some sponsors offer a larger signing bonus up front. Some offer more weekly income. The better we perform, the more our level will go up as the team gains more acclaim. Doing this looks like we can afford this power unit supplier and teammate. Go ahead and confirm if you're happy.
We should be okay with Tatiana Calderon, who we can meet turn into a world champion. Who knows? Let's go with that. We'll go with the Sharp sponsorship, try and get 5 points this season. We'll go
Let's select or edit the livery we'll be running this season. We can add more sponsors to the car as we sign them throughout the year. And don't worry, we can edit our look at any time from HQ.
I haven't got the podium pass. I don't know why that comes wrong. Let's edit that, because that's a horrible looking car. Yeah, I haven't got the podium pass, so we're just going to have to look through the options. What have we got in terms of the various Michael Schumacher liveries? Ooh. That's just as painful to look at as it was back in the day. Okay, what do we want? Something kind of crisp and clean. I think we'll go with that one. We'll obviously change the colours. We're going to go with the traditional channel colours of purple and yellow, because that's always been the channel colours. So we'll go with that, and we'll switch that to a nice-ish yellow. Can I maybe brighten the yellow up? Good choice. Right. I don't want it to be almost green, I want it to be actually yellow. That's kind of my thing. Yeah, something like that. Maybe make it a touch darker. That was the way I was going. I want it to be that side of that shade of yellow. Good times, right? We'll accept that. Problem solved. That is going to be our team livery for the season. That looks not unacceptable. Going to race in the classic purple and yellow. That should do the job nicely for us. There's our livery sorted. Sponsor decals. Well, we can edit that in the HQ apparently. Okay, so that's that sorted. Select that one.
Now we need a badge for our team branding. Select an existing badge, edit it, or create one from scratch.
Okay, let's do this. Let's edit one from scratch because that's awful. So we've got emblems as options, or we've got backgrounds that we can use. Or we can use a combination of both, but the emblem is going to be good. If there's something I can do that has some kind of CR involved, that'll be good. That'll be the nicest thing for us to do. That sort of looks like a C, doesn't it? A little bit like a C. I think that's the best we can do is edit the style. Let's go 3D. Looks a bit Renault-y, doesn't it? Looks a little bit Renault-y. Let's maybe not go full Renault-y. Not really liking any of these, I'm honest. They're all a bit boring. So I guess we'll stick with that. That's what we've got. Those are the options we have. Colour scheme wise, we're going to try and get our purple and yellow back, which hopefully will be somewhere around here. Purple, yes. And yellow. We end up switching these colours around because when it finally responds and lets me stop at yellow, that'll kind of do. And then yeah, why not? Then we'll change the background, get rid of the background entirely, maybe get rid of it entirely. Maybe we've got something fun we can do here. Have it in a heart, why not? On a shield, on a hexagon, no, apparently not on a stop sign, which will probably reflect our performance most of the season. It's not really a lot here I like, I'm not gonna lie. Hopefully if you get the podium pass you get more and I can fix that. For now we're just going to go blank and leave it as it is, and then we'll save that and exit, and that'll be setting up
Last but
team
not
badge
least,
for the
we
season.
need to pick team colours for the rest of our branding. You'll see these colours throughout HQ.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice if they just don't like they do on Motorsport Manager, where you just kind of have the colours that you have for the rest of your branding. You know, it all comes together when you do the car. That would be nice. The luminance there, so I can make that actually yellow. White's not a bad colour to add to everything, so you can just copy the livery colours apparently. That'll do. That's not awful. Let's accept that.
Right,
Why not?
that's everything we need. You can go.
Okay, so we're through. We're going to do a 22 race season, I think, because I mean, we lose Baku on 16, and Baku's by far the best track. Yeah, we'll stick with a 22 race season, and a whole bunch of things. I'm going to skip through to the menu here because this is going to ask me to fix a lot of stuff and it will take forever, so we'll just come back in 2 seconds. So I've got everything set up. Basically, I'm going to keep the racing line on for the first couple of races just while I get used to the game again, because I've not played an F1 game in earnest in a while, so just so I can remember what the tracks are. And I put the difficulty to 65 because, again, I've not played in earnest in a while, and also I'm not known for being world class on 100%. I will eventually get up to 100%, but it takes me a while to get there. But that should give me a nice level. I'll adjust it as we go. We're also going to do 25% race distance and full qualifying, because those of you who've been watching the channel recently know that I'm in the middle of both moving house and I've gone back to work, and I've got a lot of content to kind of force series to keep up on. So time is at a premium, so hopefully you'll still see some good racing. But now we've got to do the find out of diplomacy and answer some questions, and these will apparently dictate where we end up as a team. So we're gonna see the mighty Will Buxton doing his thing. Thank you for pointing at me, dude.
Okay,
awesome.
we're live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello folks, and welcome to the HQ of Formula One's newest team. We've been invited backstage to gain an exclusive insight into what could be one of the most exciting entries in the sport for many years. Now, we've seen a number of new teams enter the sport over the last decade, amongst their number Manor, Caterham, HRT and of course Haas. And while some have proved to be successful, others have morphed into different teams and some have disappeared completely. What marks this team out, though, as being something different is that its owner is also its driver. Now, there's a rich history of that in Formula One too. Sir Jack Brabham, John Surtees, Graham Hill and Bruce McLaren all drove their own cars in the sport, but it has become increasingly rare in recent years. What's very special about this team, though, is that while the team itself is new to Formula One, so too is its driver and owner.
Whatever happens this season, you've already made the history books. Tell me, do you feel up to the mammoth task of both managing and driving for a Formula One team?
Not really, but we'll make it happen. We're gonna say we'll believe in ourselves and the team, because it's going to be a lot of work, but we'll make it out for us.
Every team needs 2 drivers, but what was it that drew you to your teammates?
I think I really want her to have an opportunity in F1, because, you know, for all the equality movement we've seen Lewis Hamilton bring into the sport, we'll probably see 70 more black drivers before we see a woman allowed into a racing car, because F1 apparently doesn't allow that. So it was nice to give her a chance. So I guess we'll go with they'll appreciate the opportunity. Why not?
No one aims to finish bottom of the table. Who's the team you're aiming to beat?
Oh, it's a tough question. I can't say I want to beat Williams because I'm such a big Williams fan. It's going to be tough. I think saying Racing Point is a mistake. Saying we're going to say AlphaTauri, because Haas and Racing Point will develop fast.
How are you expecting the car to feel out on track?
I think we're going to be looking at maybe trying to make the car as responsive in corners. Probably probably going to help because it gives us a chance of picking up points somewhere like
The other teams
Baku
now
or
have
Monaco.
years of experience, both on and off the track. How are you planning to catch up to them?
I think we're going to answer this one with the we're going to answer the fuel efficiency question. I think I can do more with fuel efficiency as a
Overtaking is a
driver.
key part of this sport. How have you ensured that your car can take advantage of each opportunity that comes your way?
I'm going to answer this one with the streamlined car, maybe. And reliability seems like a good answer. Although I suppose we could sort of double our bang for our buck with a light car. We'll try that. We'll try that, see if that helps.
And finally, which of your new departments are you most proud of?
That's a good question. I think we're going to answer this one probably with durability. I think that's probably the answer there because minimising
Well,
issues
that's
is going
about
to be
all we've got time
big
for
help.
here. We will see how this fledgling team fares in its first Grand Prix.
excellent stuff. There we
Okay,
go. We've
great, thank you.
done
That's a
our
wrap.
first interview. We're all good. And now we can go into the part where we start getting through our calendar. And this is going to be a long first episode. Everyone's first episode of my team is going to be long, I imagine, just because there's so much to get to in setting things up, and everyone wants to give you the whole experience of setting up the team. So, bear with me. We will do the Australian Grand Prix. Who we consider the team's balanced. Sponsors give you extra cash. Good work. These are resource points for how they work. We will look at the acclaim level as we go. So, we haven't unveiled our car yet. That's going to happen in a couple of days. Let's see what
This is where you can view our current
That's
facilities
the wrong
and the
button, but there
effects
we go.
they're having on the business. You can also invest some of our cash into upgrades for these facilities.
Awesome. Thanks, Bud. R&D. Let's see what we're at with R&D. That'd be nice to give us an idea of where we're at. We're already ahead of Williams, and we're the only purple car on the grid, which is always nice. I guess we'll do something in the R&D tree, just to see where we're at. So, in terms of our powertrain, we are already doing okay. In fairness, we've got a Mercedes engine, we should be okay. So we can look at that. Is there an upgrade that is going to help us? Ignition system will help with power. Let's go back. Let's see what other options we've got. Already, these shiny ones, I'm told, are things we got from the manufacturer. So going with Mercedes might actually pay off long term. I think doing gearbox durability early on is probably a really good idea, to be honest. Because gearboxes tend to be the thing I change most. I don't know if I just drive too heavily on the gears, but it's definitely worth us bearing in mind. We've only got certain things we can do because of the amount of cash we've got available to us, so just keep an eye on those things. I think that's all we can actually develop at this point, so that's good. That'll help us out, at least in the early going. Let's look at the
It's important to
activities.
use the time between races to the fullest extent, and that's where these activities come in. Manage everyone's time as efficiently as possible to maximize the team's performance.
Good. Okay, we'll do that. Right, so what have we got? 14 days to fill in. I'm going to look at the things that are going to make us money above all else. We'll do the pre-season advertising campaign, which will improve our prestige, maybe? What have we got there? 9 days before the race, the season starts. Let's start with a merch sale, because everyone likes a bit of merch. There's nothing I can fit into there, that's entirely useless. Can I move that? Because that's literally the most useless time to have that happening. Literally the most useless time. Let's press tour, does that really help us? A training camp will help with the second driver and get us some resource points, which is probably a good idea. Let's just see if I can move this away. If I remove the activity, is there something here that maybe makes us money and improves things? I guess we're going to get 1,000 points either way. we can always make money after the race, right? That's going to be a plan. So maybe what we'll do here is we'll throw in a focus on aero. Yeah, that's a good idea, because that way we should get some kind of help with the aero, and that should let us go through. What have we got messages-wise? Messages. Carl says something about the break room and painting and stuff. Get to Tiana in the simulator. Okay, cool. And then all team members, thanks for the patience. Good. Right. Okay, so we have obviously these departments where we can spend money that will help us to improve the team. So things like we can go into the aero department, we can look at the improving build time, improving quality control, resource point generation, and then things, also we've got fabrication, a whole bunch of options, a whole bunch of stuff. Personnel-wise, we can improve our simulator, our fitness center, our analysis suite, a whole bunch of powertrain work we can do once we've got the cash, a whole bunch of durability work we can do once we've got the cash, but nothing immediately helpful. And then we've got things for sponsor relations too. So things to help us make money, that'll go well. But let's get through this first week, because I don't think there's anything else hiding out here we need. Corporate, obviously we're still a way away from getting our second sponsor. We have to do well in this first race, and standings, well, nothing's happened yet. So let's advance time through the week, and let's see where we end up before we get to the Australian Grand Prix. Well, hopefully we'll have a little bit more cash. Let's go to the car reveal. Let's reveal our car properly. This should be fancy. Go on, show me the car. Show me the car. Watching this is just reminding me I need to change the colours of the sponsors, which is probably not what I was aiming to do, but it has reminded me of that, and we've got some kind of achievement for new kids on the block. There we go, excellent. Always good to get utterly meaningless Xbox achievements, but we'll take them for what they're worth as we go. And yeah, let's see what we can do about going into the next race. Run a quick look just to see if I can change the vehicle colour scheme thing. Is there?
This is the driver market. From here, you can see pertinent details on each driver in the sport. Compare them with each other and add them to your watch list. When the contract negotiation window rolls around, this is where you will approach any drivers you wish to hire.
So let's see. I think I just want to make it black. I think making it black will look okay. Weird shade of red. We'll make that black on the front because that's going to look way better than it does already. Let's have a look at the other sponsor slots. Having that black is definitely the way to go. Definitely the way to go. Can I change the number colour? Does it let me do that? I don't think it does. I don't really want it to be black, but I guess I've got no choice. Characters, we don't need to wear team colours. Will that let me change let me change the number colour? Okay, we tried it. We tried that, that's fine. Okay, so let's keep going forward. See what we can do. In fact, I'm going to stop advancing because I just realised I've got some R&D points to spend. And I need to really upgrade our arrows. We'll do the rear wing because that's going to help us a lot. We'll do that, and can we maybe... Department capacity reached, okay. Where are we at in terms of chassis? Not great, we're not doing great in terms of chassis. Okay, we'll develop that as well. That's a good start. And can we maybe get a power upgrade going as well? We can. Spark plugs really doesn't really make any difference to us at all, does it? Doesn't change anything, so we'll just go with that and see if that helps us develop the car any further. We're not going to spend any money right now because there doesn't seem to be a lot of point. Hopefully things will work out. Driver train up 3 experience, 3 pace. Gearbox durability upgrade comes in. That's a good time. Any messages, any activities, any R&D points to spend? Doesn't look like it. I think we're pretty much at that race time. Tyre allocation wise, team will provide you with a suggested tyre loadout at the start of each weekend. This provides you with a quick overview of the tyres. Okay, good. I think I'm going to want to set a hard for the race. probably... I can't imagine I'd want a set of hards for... I can't imagine I'd want 2 sets of hards, would I? Although in fairness, I can't imagine I need 3 sets, that many sets of softs. We'll go with that. If I get to Q2, then that was probably a good idea. So we'll do that. Right, I'm going to go into the race weekend, and we'll do some abridged highlights of qualifying and the race. So stick around. So coming out of practice, then you can see Tatiana had a really good first practice. We're getting questions. Let's do the questions.
You really went all out in practice today. Are you testing new components?
I think this was just kind of a see how the car looks session, so I think we're going to say that. Just to see what we can find out about the car.
You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling for grip?
Definitely struggling for grip. The downforce was not there at all. It just wasn't there. We'll work on that.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Thanks, Claire. That was all apparently all she wanted from us. You can see we've got a good haul of resource points from the practice session. It's really interesting actually because Tatiana finished 10th in P3. I finished 8th in P2. So I think it maybe just reflects our quali runs. But we got a good haul of resource points, so I went straight in, nice and easy. Couple of durability. So we're going to work on the ICE. As you can see right here, I had a little thing, but yeah, we're going to work on the ICE and then we're going to work on the turbo durability as well. Just try and keep the car in as good condition as we possibly can, because making it to the end of a race is far more important. And now we go into Q1, and hopefully you'll see some things. We're going to do the first lap as a kind of full thing, and then we'll work from there, I think, because yeah, the idea was to show you the full first lap I did, then I'll just show you the back ends of most of the other laps that we did, just because, you know, we'll get through qualifying fairly quickly. So into the car, nice and straightforward. Just a quick look at the weather. It looks like it's staying dry. We're going to make sure we've got our set of softs on and go straight to the track. And here we are coming onto the first lap, just coming through the warm-up lap onto the first flyer. And this isn't my best lap. I did say that I'm a little bit out of practice with the game. I'm not necessarily the best driver in the world, because that first couple of apexes was awful. Also, this car is an absolute dog to drive. So it's kind of the unholy trinity of things, but I'll improve as we carry on the series. The car will definitely improve, and hopefully, again, another missed apex there. Even with the guide on, the guide just kind of reminds me where to brake, because I'm not used to the track yet. Or, you know, because I'm out of practice with the game. And you'd think just follow the guide like you're on rails, you should be fine. It's not so easy when the car drives as badly as this one does. There's a lot of oversteer on it, a lot through high speed corners, a lot of understeer through low speed corners. It's a very interesting ride. Trying to keep on a line is horrendous. We come through this corner, very tight. Really didn't get the sweep on that I like, but opened the DRS spot on, and now we come through into sector 3, where you'll start to see just how bad the car is through slow corners. Trying to get control over it. It felt like it got traction too early there, and then as it turned into the second one, got traction too late. And through here, fairly nice, probably slowed down a bit too much for trying to come through this final corner. Just the turn-in came a bit too early. It took me a little while to figure out what the car was actually supposed to be doing. That's a 127, puts us in 4th, but half the car's on track, and we're going to come straight through into the start of our second flying lap, where hopefully I had a bit of a better handle on the car, or so I thought. We're going to kind of skip. Sorry the editing isn't great, I'm still figuring that out. We'll get there together. You can see we were 2 tenths up though after the first couple of corners, but through this back section, the third sector, it all just kind of went wrong the last few corners. Everything went wrong. The steering it's not there, and maybe it's a setup issue. Maybe I need to work on the setups a bit more. But we'll like I said, we'll figure it out. We come through, we're 4 tenths down, but I thought, I knew I'd made a few mistakes on that lap, so I thought I'd stay out for a second flyer. And you'll see in a second that we're actually running on low fuel, as Jess just helpfully told us. So yeah, we're gonna cut through the lap I think I may have edited this wrong. I'm having to do the voiceover after I've edited, so I may have edited things badly. You can see we're 2 tenths up already. Like I knew where the time was lost, and I went chasing it. And yeah, as we sort of go through this lap, you'll see coming through here, 7 tenths down already. With that was 7 tenths lost through about 4 corners, and then we come into sort of the final sort of. We're coming into the final sector. We start picking it up through the back straight, which is interesting. We pick up a lot of time on the back straight. We get a fairly good move through the chicane there, and then we start picking up time literally as we go into sector 3. Really nice through this corner. Maybe a little bit too much curb, but you know, considering the car's not steering terribly well, taking a bit more curb is going to have to be a thing. Get through this corner very nicely. And the final corner as well, maybe a little bit wide of the apex, but we managed to turn it back in, and there we are with 4 tenths up as we come through, and that moves us up, only up into 19th, which is not ideal. We come on to the 3rd lap we did, the final lap we did in Q1, and I got really lucky because I came out just behind Sergio Perez, and you're going to see we're going to get a lot of toe on this lap out of Sergio Perez, even going through the first couple of corners. Okay, we're down there, we come onto this straight coming out of turn 2. And it looks like we're losing him. But then we catch up coming through this corner, and suddenly we're on the back of him. And there we go into the 3rd sector. We're already half a second up, purely because of this toe. But coming out of this last couple of corners, that time difference just increases and increases and increases. And he's going to literally tow us up 7 tenths up on our best time, which takes us into the 25s, I think. And we're going to see through here P10 out of Q1. Not too bad. Definitely flatters our ability though. That was all Sergio's doing, because we never get into the 25s naturally. You can see as we go, like Tatiana's been more or less within 2 tenths of me most laps until that, and we're now 6 tenths up on her, which puts us into Q2, and we're going to get flying straight into Q2. You can see here I used all of our soft tyres in Q2 and Q1, so we're going to have to use the least worn ones for our first couple of flyers, which this is the back end of the first one. It's not a great lap. Things weren't necessarily coming together well. I was sort of hoping we could get onto the end of this McLaren ahead of us, but we didn't ever really get there. And we're going to come across the line now and post a 26.2, which puts us in 5th for the moment, but you're going to see that's not going to change. We're 15th. We come through the final corner, our 2nd lap on that set of slightly used softs. We're already 3 tenths down. Things were not looking spectacular. That's going to come in close to the 27 to 26.6. So I thought, you know what, we don't really belong in Q2. It's not really our thing. So I threw on a set of mediums and thought, why not? And you can see we're already 2 tenths up coming through the penultimate corner. We're not really going to get it back coming off this back straight, but I had to kind of make do. We can't improve the time, so it's P16 for the race, and that's going to be, you know, it's not too bad. It's better than I expected. I think we were expected to maybe qualify 21st, and you can see coming out of Q2, some big surprises maybe in that Ricciardo doesn't make it through into Q3 either. But, you know, we're still adjusting. The Ferraris are definitely OP at the start of my team. Hopefully they're going to get patched down to where they belong. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. 24.3, though, as the Leclerc time. We're going to go down the order. Romain Grosjean just ahead of us. Kevin Magnussen just ahead of us. Yeah, but we got to the race, and
months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to Melbourne for the opening race of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to the Australian Grand Prix. We're a stone's throw from the enormous Port Phillip Bay for today's race at the 3.3-mile Albert Park circuit. It's a bumpy racing surface here, and the 16 corners could prove especially difficult in the wet conditions. Watch out for a safety car at some point during the Grand Prix. Can Mercedes start with victory in their bid to win a 7th consecutive Constructors' title? Could Ferrari or Red Bull establish an advantage early on? And with 22 cars on the grid, how quickly can the new team find their footing? Well, it's great to be back, Anthony Davidson. we've got a lot to talk about this year.
That's right, Crofty. It felt like a long winter, but it's good to finally be back. I have to think the usual suspects will battle it out at the front, but there are always going to be some teething problems early on in the season, so whoever can keep on top of their issues will have the advantage today.
As I mentioned earlier, we're up to 11 teams this season, with a new entry run by, well, of all things, an owner-driver. That's something we haven't seen in this sport since Hector Raback over 4 decades ago. So how are they looking so far?
It's hard to imagine how a small operation like that could survive in the ruthless world of Formula One. And yet here they are, first ever race looking surprisingly strong. But there are no points for qualifying. Let's see how they fare in the Grand Prix proper.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Albon, Norris, Sainz, Ocon and Kimi Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen and Gasly, Grosjean, the rookie, Lance Stroll and Daniel Kvyat, Perez, Calderon, Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
So, really into the race, and strategy-wise, I took a little bit of a gamble because you can see there it's supposed to start a heavy rain and come out lightening up and finally get dry. So I had a little bit of a play. I wanted to kind of book in before we got off the line a switch on to inters, but I wasn't sure whether to tell it we were going to come in lap 5 or tell it we were going to come in late. I thought I'd see if we get any hints on when the rain might stop from the projected race time. In the end, I settled for lap 5 because I mean that opens a pit window more or less to the end of the race. They know we're going to come in at some stage for inters, so I don't have to worry about fiddling with the MFD as we're going around the track. But we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, I knew we were definitely going to need a set of mediums. We go to 5 red lights, and hopefully a really good start. And away we go. There we are. And it's average start, slightly better than Grosjean, maybe biting a bit better into traction than Grosjean. But getting into this first corner, oh, I got a bit nervous on the brakes because I couldn't see anything. So I braked a little bit early. We've lost a couple of positions, but I think, you know, there's no races won in turn 1, as the old cliche goes. No need to be a hero, so we'll make it work for us. And again, a bit cautiously picked up a couple of places going through turn 3. And yeah, we're just going to stick with this first lap for a little while because this is where the big fight always happens when you're a back marker team, and then it's just trying not to let everyone lose you. I'm going to adjust as we go the difficulty level just as I get more comfortable with things. Good dive bump there, maybe elbows out a bit too much on Magnussen.
Okay, that's a good start. Keep it up.
Jeff's is a good start though, so he's happy with elbows out. Because yeah, I just wanted to kind of see where we were in terms of race pace and my ability and other such things. So yeah, maybe a bit too easy at the start, but you know, again, we'll adjust. We'll get it to a point where it's way more realistic as fast as we possibly can. And you can see here as we come down this back straight, we're already losing Danny Rick. Not massively, but staying on the back of him is a challenge. Our car, even with the Mercedes power, it's not necessarily all the way there in terms of just being able to blister the straights, especially against a Renault. We've managed to get to the back of him. We're okay in the braking zones. Also, having the difficulty level drop down to probably lower than I should be comfortable with means cars brake very early. The AI brakes very early. I'm going to go full disclosure now. I have used flashbacks for this session, purely because you won't see them because I edit them out, but I have used them because the unpredictability of the AI's braking zones or brake points when you're in a low difficulty mode. As Tatiana comes in, I think she went off on the first corner and maybe had some contact with someone. But yeah, because it's very hard to predict where the braking zones are going to be with the AI drivers, I thought it better safe than sorry, so we don't pile into the back of someone right off the first corner, which is why I was quite cautious. Because we're on fully simulated damage, but we'll get there to a point where I'm braking at approximately the same place as the cars around me, so we can avoid needing the flashbacks to, you know, have a race to watch. So if we've passed Ricciardo, he's not a million miles away. You'll probably see I keep checking behind me just to see how close he actually is. because he is pulling in fast. But Giovinazzi is next up in 12th place, which means, you know, we're riding far higher than we should be. And this was kind of the first inkling I got that I maybe had the difficulty set a little bit too low, because we shouldn't be challenging Giovinazzi really in the race. Maybe with a good strategy play, maybe, you know, if we were on a different cycle, we might find ourselves challenging 12th, but I don't think we really should be. We're going to get through the first couple of laps together, and then we're gonna start jumping forward as we sort of settle into a rhythm. We'll get ourselves further and further on in the race, because I don't want to show you the whole thing, because it's a lot of me doing nothing. I had an awful exit on the penultimate corner there, and that's cost a lot of time. Let Ricciardo right at the back of us. Hopefully we'll make it back though down this straight, but you'll see Danny Rick will start challenging us because he's firmly on our gearbox now.
You'll be on inters for the next stint.
Jeff with the helpful reminder that I told him I'd come in on lap 5. The rain's definitely easing at this point. Now you can see we're coming to the end of lap 4. We've skipped forward a little bit. We're still nowhere near Giovinazzi. Someone's already coming ahead of us, so we're in 11th. But as we come around this corner, you can see there are a few cars already starting to pit. That's Raikkonen in, it's Verstappen in, it's Vettel in. Very interesting they've decided to come on lap 4. It shows my sort of random guess that lap 5 I thought might be 42 second leaders obscene, which has already made one pit stop. Yeah, I guessed that lap 5 might be the crossover point. Those guys coming in kind of vindicate that. Another bad exit, because I couldn't, in the rain especially, this car is awful to drive, it's so bad. We came in for a set of inters, and I added a little bit of downforce to the front wing. I think I added 1 notch of downforce to the front wing just to help us turn in a bit better, because I was really struggling to make it through corners. It was really tight. But you'll see coming out of this pit stop on the inters, we start making some good time. I think the extra wing, the better grip that we get from the inters, all came together quite nicely to really help us out. We're coming out of the pits in 16th. Really good pit stop considering we made that turn of wing as well. Someone there, I think it's Gasly, lost their front wing, which, you know, that's always helpful. That's almost a free position once we get onto the back of Gasly. You'll see, if you keep an eye on the timing at the top of the screen, we catch him. I mean, you can see the distance closing visually. That loss of that, I think it was a front wing end plate from the battle he's having with Giovinazzi. Tatiana's in again, second stop in 6 laps, which is awful for her. Really ruined her race. But you can see we're going to start catching Gasly at a rate of knots. We've taken almost a second out of him through the first few corners, and we're right on the back of him now. We're right up against him. And whatever has happened to Gasly's wing has definitely ruined his race. But we're back up with Giovinazzi again once we pass him. Getting past Gasly was quite a challenge, both in the rain with the sort of limited visibility. Also, you know, we're still not the fastest car on pace. Trying to find any grip whatsoever was a nightmare. We find ourselves right up behind him coming through the S's, which is not where you want to be behind a slower car. And I just kind of had to power go through this, it would usually be a DRS zone. And just really late dive bomb, almost clipped him, came so close to taking Gasly out. Not my best move, kind of a little bit brave. We made it past, and now it's just kind of the race to chase down Giovinazzi. What you'll see here is lap 7, with the inters working for us, with the extra grip, with really starting to get a feel for the car, understand how it works now. You can see we're really catching him up fast, and we're about to set what will be at the time the fastest lap of the race. Which, you know, I'll bear in mind our best so far this session. We've had a lot of back markers, has been a 44. There is a yellow flag up ahead. And this, by the way, out of nowhere, Giovinazzi has blown his engine, and he was on the racing line, and I didn't see him until literally we were about to hit him.
We don't need to risk a DNF chasing records, so think about going down to mix 1 and lifting early into
Jeff not happy with me using so much fuel. Yeah, it was Giovinazzi came out of absolutely, you saw it yourself, he came out of nowhere there. I didn't see him until absolutely at the last second. I don't know if that's an AI issue or it's just individual driver AIs, but he must have known his engine was about to blow, and he didn't pull off the racing line. But we did pick up a fastest lap of the race on lap 7. We're on 2 purple sectors as we come through the back end of lap 8. We're going to catch this big old train of Raikkonen, Sainz, Verstappen, I think that's Stroll up in the front of it as well. A 5-car train there. It's Ocon in the middle of it. And I think it's Stroll up ahead has a real problem with his car. I think he's taken some wing damage or something. I completely forgot to save the replay, which is why you're not seeing any off-board footage in this one. I'll remember for next time. So I couldn't go back and figure out what was wrong with his car, but you can see how much time we lost. A second and a half or more actually through that third sector chasing these guys. You're going to see in a second I'm going to drop down.
The radar's showing a clear.
Ooh, that was a flashback. Because in this corner I absolutely stacked it into everybody because I couldn't find the braking point whatsoever. It was just bowling. It was not okay. But you'll see in a second I'm going to drop down to lean mix. A, to save the fuel. B, to cool the engine down because the dirty air does not help the engines at F120, so I'm told. You see we're making a big dive bomb there round the inside of Carlos Sainz, trying to make this stick. We're wheel to wheel going through this section here, and up behind George Russell. And I thought about the dive bomb there, but I held off. I held back because there's still half a race to go. It's not even with flashbacks. I try not to use them if I don't have to. If I haven't genuinely screwed up just by misjudging where the other drivers are braking.
Okay, the weather's certainly eased off for the time being, but we've still got a lot of standing water out there. We're happy for you to stay out on the interstate.
Good choice, because that was the plan. Yeah, I didn't want to take too many risks.
Some information on Perez. They're slowing down. It seems like there's some kind of problem.
And we find out, there goes Sergio Perez, our saviour from Q1. He has had an issue with his car, so that's going to be worth keeping up. I think he's ahead of us at this point. Oh no, we passed him, didn't we? I think it was Sainz we just passed. I was paying attention. You find Russell here on the home straight though, and really hoping to find some power. I kind of left it in lean mix, hoping we'd get past him on pure slipstream, but in the end we just took him in the braking zone, and that's put us onto the back of Esteban Ocon, who next up the road, but still 3.7 seconds up. And then we skip forward a couple of laps. We've cut that time down. We find ourselves on the back of another train here. Ocon, Stroll, Verstappen, and Magnussen up in front of us as well. We're into P11. Stroll is currently stayed on the wets. He's not made a change. I don't think he makes a change or what race. I think he just stays on the wets the entire time. But just really close for comfort. I didn't turn in them because I knew I was going to hit Ocon. Let it drift. We're back into lean mix. I had been using a bit of rich mix, a bit of standard mix to try and catch up with these guys on the way. Back into lean mix while we sit behind this kind of train of cars, trying to pick our moment to get past them. Go into the back straight. Visibility is absolute zero. Just the worst visibility. And we come through the sweeping S's, really trying not to take Ocon out the back because they brake far too hard, the AI through there. Maybe onto the grass a little bit, and we lost control. And here we go into the turn coming out of what would normally be the DRS zone. Very close, held off a little bit, tried not to take the back of him out too much. Again through here, just really being careful. This battle goes on for a little while, and you can see Magnussen as well. Magnussen is still on the wets at this point. That's why he's struggling for pace. There's nothing wrong with his car. He's just struggling for pace being on the wets, and Verstappen will take him easily on this straight here. Ocon and Stroll have a little bit of a battle going on. But you can see I've got him in the braking zone. That's a double overtake on Ocon and Stroll coming into turn 1, and that puts us up into P9 in the race with just Magnussen ahead of us on those wet tyres. 4 laps to go, and we're in the hunt. We're in the points. We're in the hunt. Like I said, I think the difficulty may have been a bit too low. That corner exit was terrible. The apex was atrocious, because we definitely shouldn't be in the points competing. Even we've only had 1 DNF at this point in the race. We shouldn't be competing in the points, but we'll get there together. And Magnussen, you can see how slow he is. We're almost having to hold off. We're in lean mix. We're not even really pushing the engine terribly hard, which is good as well. I spent a lot of the race in lean mix while we were in traffic, which is going to save the engine, hopefully for the long term. We see on this back straight, we have a real fight with Magnussen. I did have to use a flashback here because he kept sort of brake checking me a little bit into this corner. Finally got him in the braking zone, kind of tried to decide which side to take him. couldn't decide where to go, took him down the inside of the S's, and this more or less settles us in towards the back end of the race, because you can see Verstappen is 4.4 off, give or take. He sort of hovers around the 4.5 seconds ahead of us mark, and you know, we shouldn't be catching under any circumstances a Red Bull in a brand new car. It's not the way. This exit is terrible. I've really got to work on how I take that corner. In the dry, I'm generally okay with it. In the wet, I can never ever get that brake point right, that turning point right. And we come through here, and it's a 43 lap, but it's 4.3 as we come through here, and then we're going to come onto the last lap, and you can see it's 4.7. We're more or less keeping pace with the Red Bull in the final stages of the race. Definitely not the way it should be. We've set up a 5.5 second gap to Ocon behind us, and we're going to come around the corner. Valtteri Bottas wins the Grand Prix. It's a really good first run for us. Like I said, maybe assisted a little bit by the lower difficulty. We're going to come across to the checkered flag, and we're going to take a very, very handy P8, which will buy us 4 points in the championship and really start things off with a bang. We get drive for the day, which I guess is determined by the number of places we made up, but not necessarily deserved.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
For an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it. Round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. After today's performance, Valtteri Bottas secures the championship lead. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
I have to give it to the rookie. There was a lot going on all down the field, but they were the only one who I really felt maximised their potential.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. Well, Ants, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
There you go. So, no real surprise in the Drivers' or Constructors' Championship. Tatiana finished 20th, which, you know, probably more reflects the pace of the car than where we did. So we'll adjust for that. I'll probably add sort of 5, maybe 10 points to the difficulty for the next race, just to see where we shake out with that. And keep doing so race by race until I find a level where I feel like we should be. 4 points in the constructors though is a good start, puts us into 5th, and yeah, we're gonna hopefully carry on as well. I say hopefully carry on. We won't carry on as we start. We are gonna start to drop back because of the necessity of putting up difficulty, but you know, it's been fairly good.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. It made it look easy.
I mean, to be fair, Claire, the difficulty was a little bit easy.
Positions during the race, didn't you?
We did, and it's going to be the Mercedes power unit you kind of have to thank for that, because the car itself is a boat. It's just the worst thing to drive in the world.
You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled.
I mean, yeah, we have a good team. I did my best with it. The team are pretty good, so we're all quite happy. Thanks, Claire. See, it's always hard to decide what to tell you, but yeah, we're happy.
How do you feel the weather affected the outcome today?
Well, you know, I usually can't resist a dad joke, but I feel like we have to claim we're one of the top drivers because we changed strategies and we made it work.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Well, good work there from Claire, but we'll come back and we're into the team acclaim. We can see we've gained 24% of our acclaim boost, which moves up into level 2, which means in the next episode we can take on a second sponsor, which is excellent. We've made 800k. I've lost some money for damage. I think I maybe clipped a couple of people on the way through. In fact, I definitely did, because I did use the elbows very early on, and you can see there we've brought in some money. We've got $1 million going, and just in case you were wondering, I had noticed that I'd forgotten to set up you can see there we've got the opportunity for a second sponsor. I did notice I'd forgotten to set up the driver colours, and it takes me a second to remember where to find it, but yeah, I realised I hadn't set up the race suits properly, so you're going to see what we're actually going to look like for the rest of the season here, because I made a few changes. Obviously, we want to get that purple and yellow into the race suit as best as we can. You can see a few of the options you get with the Schumacher pack as well if you haven't bought the game yet. Gives you a little bit of an insight. We're going to try and change these colours. We're going to the Rigor scheme, because why wouldn't we? And it takes me a second to remember how to set up colours. Apparently, I was recording this at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But there we go. We're going to go with mostly purple because that's what we do. We'll switch that yellow up for a slightly better yellow, and I think we end up keeping the white. Do we? Oh no, maybe I chose to change it to a yellow. I don't remember. I've slept since this happened. Takes a while to get used to these colour bars. We'll switch it up there. We'll switch it up for yellow. So we're going with a yellow and purple suit because it just looks better. It just looks like we drive for the right team now, which ultimately is what we're going for. We'll switch the gloves up as well, because why not? But this is all kind of superfluous background stuff. So I'm going to let you enjoy that in the background whilst I sign off for the episode, I think, because otherwise we're just going to go on for hours and hours and hours. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like and subscribe. Leave me comments below. I do respond to comments, especially if you've got helpful hints on setting up the cars and maybe driving a bit better and all those things that I clearly need the assistance with. And also you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Patreon at Chasing Lamely, should you wish to do so. In the meantime though guys, I've been Chasing Lamely. Thank you for watching. I'll try and get the next episode out within the next few days. It's not going to be an everyday thing, as I've said before, because I've got loads on at work at the moment. So it's kind of fitting it in between everything else on the channel and work. So we'll get through it together, as always. But yeah, thank you for watching guys. I've been Chasing Lamely, and until next time, have a good one.